everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Heather and today I am here with my March TBR. Now, March is always a really tough month. For me as a teacher, it involves a lot of presentations and planning and recommendations and scheduling for the next school year and report cards and parent-teacher conferences, plus having no days off. And it just feels like the longest month ever. So to combat the inevitable stress that is going to come with that, I thought I would participate in middle grade March this year, reading some shorter, lighter books that will hopefully keep me feeling like, yes, I am still reading through all of that. So these are all books that actually fit all of the middle grade March official prompts for the year. Unfortunately, I didn't write down what those prompts are, so I'm just going to talk through the books, and I will try to link the official middle grade March video down below so you can check out those official prompts for yourself if you want to. The first book that I think I might read is At Her Majesty's Request by Walter Dean Myers. This is a book that I always saw when I was in elementary school, but for some reason I never actually picked it up and read it. I don't know why, I just never got around to it. But a few years ago, a teacher that I currently work with was cleaning out her classroom library, and this was one of the books she was getting rid of. So I took it home, and now I might actually read it. This is, I believe, based on a true story about an African princess who was at least renamed Sarah Forbes Bonetta, and she was orphaned and then brought to England and somehow became the protege of Queen Victoria. And that just sounds so fascinating, and it's something that I think very few Victorian historians really talk about. So I'm intrigued to see what this story is like, and I know Walter Dean Myers is or was very highly thought of as a children's author as well. Then I thought I would also read the first Eddie Albert book by the late great Paul O'Grady. Yes, he wrote children's books as well. There were 2 in the series and my mother owns both of them, so I am borrowing the first one, which is called The Amsterdam Adventure. And all I know is that it's about Eddie Albert, who has the ability to talk to animals, and apparently it is just hilarious. I know my mother loves the idea that he convinces the hamster to go to Amsterdam, because it was originally called Hamsterdam until a bunch of Cockneys went in and started dropping the H. That just sounds adorable. This summer, I also found a copy of one of the original Dr. Dolittle stories by Hugh Lofting. This is The Voyages of Dr. Dolittle, which I believe is book 2, but very heavily part of the Dr. Dolittle film that I grew up loving as a child with Rex Harrison. This involves them searching for the great pink sea snail and whatnot. I'm not sure how their discovery of Sea Star Island is going to go in terms of how well the portrayal of the islanders has aged, but memories of the film, I think, will help me through it. And it'll be quite fun to see Dr. Dolittle and Matthew and Tommy Stubbins all over again. Then I have the last 3 books in the Half Magic series by Edward Eager. This is a series of books about children growing up in Connecticut in the 50s, I believe. Well, actually, I don't want to nail it down to a time period because the series follows 2 or 3 groups of children that are all interconnected in one way or another. And wherever they end up for the summer, there's always something that happens that involves some sort of strange, funny magic, and they have the most interesting adventures. So I really haven't looked at what these last 3 are about. I'm intrigued to just dive in and see where the connections lie. But they are The Well-Wishers, 7 Day Magic, and Magic or Not. I also have Enchanted Glass by Diana Wynne Jones, which I honestly know nothing about. I know nothing about this book. I know nothing about Diana Wynne Jones's writing except for Howl's Moving Castle. I read it as part of a children's fiction class that I took in England when I was in university, and I really, really loved it, such that to this day I cannot watch the Studio Ghibli film because the twist in the book of what Howl actually is and why he's considered a wizard is so fantastic, but it's so culturally specific that I don't think it would translate into a Japanese film. I can't think how you would do that. So I trust that it is a lovely film, but I will probably never watch it. But I haven't read any of her other work. This, I believe, is a standalone. I don't think it's part of the Howl universe. And I'm just intrigued to see what this turns out to be. I believe it's about a boy whose grandfather was a wizard, and things happen from there. Then finally, well, not finally, but lastly in my physical books, I have The Chronicles of Weatherwhy, at least the first book, which is a new series by Anna James, who wrote the Pages & Co. series that you can see here behind me, which I adored. So this is book one in her new series, which came out a year or two ago, called The Age of Enchantment. And I'm really intrigued to read it. I'm hopeful that I will love it as much as Pages & Co., but I'm also a little nervous because it's obviously going to be very different and unconnected from Pages & Co., so I hope that I love it. And honestly, that's all I know about this universe as well. Clearly we're following a boy and a girl, but I really don't know anything else about how this universe works and what our protagonists are going to have to do. But I'm intrigued to find out. Plus, this edition has these very cool blue sprayed edges, which lead a little bit into the actual page as well, which I've never seen before. And I say that's my last physical book because I may also read The Lightning Thief by Rick Riordan. I was never very intrigued by the Percy Jackson series. I was far too old for it, really, by the time it was being published. But recently, I have developed a connection with one of my sixth graders because she too is a reader. By which I mean she will tell me that she's excited that it's Friday because her book just finished on the biggest cliffhanger, but it's okay because she just got book 4 from the library and it's waiting at home and she can't wait to go back and start it. We understand one another. But she recommended Percy Jackson to me. So I feel like as part of middle grade March, I really should read at least the first one so I can tell her what I think of it. So I do know a bit about Percy Jackson. I watched the film on TV many years ago, and I know the film is universally disliked by people who like Percy Jackson, so I am willing to go in with many grains of salt and experience the book as its own thing. But I do know that it's an adaptation of lots of different Greek myths, and that Percy is kind of a stand-in for Perseus if he were an 11-year-old boy in modern day New York, I think. And he and a bunch of his friends find out that they all have relationships to the gods, and these will help them on a variety of missions that they need to go on. But yes, it is the Harry Potter to the generation of students that I have taught, so I really should give it a try. So those are the books that I hope to read in March. Of course, I am not limited to these. Library holds will inevitably come in for me. I have arcs that I will need to read, so those will be mixed in with this pile. But since these are middle grade and shorter, lighter, hopefully I can read a good many of these as well. Let me know down below what your reading plans for March are. I know there are a ton of readathons going on in the month of March. And let me know if you particularly recommend any of the books that I mentioned, or if you are very intrigued by certain books that I mentioned and want me to read those first if I can, or just talk to me about books, frankly. I always love hearing from you. And until then, be safe, be well, and happy reading. Bye, everyone.